So, yeah, if you've been coding with Claude Code this past month and you started feeling like something was off, like it just got dumber overnight, no, you weren't imagining it. I've seen the same thing in my own workflow, and honestly, I chalked it up to burnout or maybe some wild hallucination on my part. But Anthropic finally put out a real statement, not just a generic, we're looking into it, but a full-on engineering post-mortem laying out exactly what went wrong. And I've got to say, this blog post is kind of wild. It's refreshingly honest for a big AI company. They didn't just blame scaling issues and move on. They gave us a timeline, real details, and yeah, some hard lessons about what happens when you run models at this scale. If you're building with AI, especially if you're like me, shipping Swift UI apps solo using Claude Code, Cursor, maybe even mixing in a bit of Codex or GPT just to stay afloat, this stuff matters. Because if Anthropic can get tripped up by things like context routing, output corruption, or even bugs at the compiler level, honestly, none of us are immune. So today, I want to walk through what actually happened, why it matters for us indie devs, and a couple of lessons I'm stealing straight into my workflow. Just real quick, I'm Daniel. I've been building iOS apps for nearly 8 years now, mostly as a freelancer, helping clients ship their ideas. Since Dub 25, though, I've gone all in on solo dev. I've launched 10 plus apps of my own, started sharing everything in public, and lately I've been building Crafters Lab, a real home for solo crafters and AI-powered devs who see AI as a teammate, not just a code vending machine. That's where I share articles, design resources, and source code. Everything I used to post on Patreon, now moving over to our own indie platform. It's private, it's built for solo devs who actually care about their craft. If you're one of the 260 on Patreon already, let's get ready to move over to crafterslab.dev. All right, let's dive in. Okay, so first things first, let's just validate the pain. If you were struggling with Claude's output, if Codegen started missing context, or it just plain forgot stuff it usually nails, that was real. Anthropic came out and confirmed that 3 different things went sideways in August and early September, and I've got to admit, there was a weird kind of comfort in reading the postmortem and seeing Anthropic themselves say, hey, this wasn't intentional, we didn't degrade model quality to save money or balance server load. These were legit bugs. I know that sounds obvious, but I don't think any of us needed another conspiracy theory about model nerfs. This was engineering chaos, not corporate sabotage. For me, it's almost a relief. The weirdness wasn't just in my head or yours. It was infrastructure. It was routing bugs. It was context window mayhem. And yeah, even some wild compiler level stuff that honestly could hit anyone running at this scale. And if Anthropic can admit that, I'm good with it. Let's sketch out the timeline real quick because the dates actually matter if you were building or debugging during any of these windows. The first issue started on August 5th, the second landed around August 25th, and the third showed up immediately after on August 26th. They weren't related, just a cascade of weird, unrelated failures. Most of this wasn't totally fixed until September 12th. If you were using Claude Code between early August and mid-September, you probably got hit by at least one of these bugs. I know I did. I was working on a Swift UI refactor, and the code gen suddenly started tripping over basic stuff. I figured maybe the model was just lazy. You know that feeling? Turns out Claude really was on the struggle bus. And yeah, while this was going on, I saw a bunch of folks on indie discords and even some people on Twitter talking about quiet nerfs or switching back to Cursor or just giving up and doing everything by hand. If you bailed on Claude for a while, honestly, I can't blame you. Here's where things get interesting because each bug actually maps to stuff we all deal with as solo devs, just at a smaller scale. The first one, They misconfigured context window routing for Sonnet 4. I know context window routing sounds like infra gobbledygook, but here's what happened. They were rolling out a 1 million token context window for Sonnet 4, but some requests, including a chunk of Claude code traffic, got misrouted to this new server pool. It started out affecting less than 1%, but at its peak, it was hitting 16% of Sonnet 4 requests. What does that mean in real life? About 30% of Claude Code users who made requests during that window had at least one message sent to the wrong server, which meant slower, dumber, or just off-target replies. And get this, it only hit Anthropic hosted Claude. That's wild. And for me, it's a reminder that even stateless APIs and cloud models aren't as abstract as we think. When the infrastructure goes sideways, the code quality does too, and you can't always see it coming. The second bug. On August 25th, Anthropic misconfigured the sampling parameters on their Claude API TPU servers. The result was a weird kind of output corruption. Some prompts would start spitting out random Thai or Chinese characters, even when you were working in English. If you saw weird non-English output or broken completions, that was it. This mostly hit Opus 4.1, Opus 4, and a bit of Sonnet 4 between August 25th and August 28th. Again, third-party platforms were fine, so it was an Anthropic side issue, not the models themselves. This is a personal nightmare scenario for any solo dev. You spend hours crafting the right prompt, and then the output is garbage. Not even broken code, just total gibberish. Makes you question your life choices. Been there. The third bug is super nerdy, but honestly kind of fascinating. On August 25th, Anthropic shipped an optimization to how Claude samples tokens, basically trying to speed up generation, but it triggered a latent bug in Google's XLA TPU compiler. In plain English, the model sometimes dropped the most probable token, especially when the temperature was set to 0. It was using 16-bit floats for next token prediction, but the TPU ran natively at 32 bits, so you ended up with this mismatch, and sometimes the model just guessed wrong. If you ever thought, how is this model getting this so wrong? Actually, that's why. The same kind of float precision or compiler mismatch bug we hit writing Swift UI code. Yeah, that can tank AI outputs at Anthropic scale too. Okay, so this part actually made me feel a little better about my own testing chaos. Anthropic's process relies a lot on internal benchmarks and canary deployments, but they admitted these kinds of subtle bugs didn't show up in their standard evals, or at least not in a way that was clear enough to link back to the new changes, even with all their spot checks, safety evals, and performance dashboards. It took external user reports and some pretty noisy signals online for the team to realize how widespread these issues were. They also mentioned that internal privacy and security rules limit their ability to just peek at user sessions, so they can't always see real-world breakage until users shout loud enough. If you're a solo dev, you know this pain. You write tests, you run benchmarks, you even have a friend or two kick the tires, but nothing beats real-world usage. That's when the weird, shouldn't be possible bugs come out to play, and that's exactly what happened here. So, what's Anthropic doing about it? They're building more sensitive evals to spot these failures earlier, deploying new tools for faster debugging, and this is the kicker, running continuous evals on their actual production systems. No more just trusting the benchmarks. They're checking live in the wild to catch things like context routing errors and output glitches before they spiral. And honestly, I'm straight up stealing this into my workflow, not at cloud scale, but at solo scale, continuous evaluation, not just at deploy time, but while you're actually using your own app or tools. Treating user feedback, even if it's just me or a handful of testers, as data for what's broken. Documenting weird issues the moment they show up. I've started dropping more known issues notes in my own Claude.md and rules.md, just so future me and my AI teammates know what to watch out for next time. You don't need a million token context window to benefit from this. Just getting in the habit of checking your real workflow, not just what you think you tested, is huge. And if Anthropic can miss stuff at their scale, we can forgive ourselves for missing the odd regression in our Swift UI apps. I'll be real, this whole postmortem was a little humbling, but it didn't nuke my trust in Anthropic or Claude Code. If anything, it made me appreciate the messy, real-world side of running AI in production. OpenAI's had its own growing pains with codecs, and honestly, every company at this scale is running into the same walls. The difference is, Anthropic published a real timeline, they owned the bugs, explained what went wrong, and even gave us a peek at how gnarly this stuff can get under the hood. For me, that's worth something. It means I'll keep Claude in my toolbox, but I'm not betting the farm on a single tool. If it breaks, I pivot. If Codex is working better 1 month, I'll jump over there for a while. That's just indie dev reality. You have to be flexible or you'll lose your mind. And yeah, I'll keep my own workflow transparent too. If something blows up, I'll do my own little postmortem, drop the notes in Claude.md, and try to share what actually happened. Not just for me, but for anyone else following along. So, yeah. That's the real story behind Claude Code's dumber month and why it wasn't just you or your prompts or your code base. It was infrastructure, it was bugs, and it was the kind of scale-induced chaos that honestly none of us solo devs will ever have to deal with. But the lessons still hit home. If you're building solo, here's the big takeaway. Always trust your gut when a tool starts acting weird and don't be afraid to dig in. Switch tools or just slow down and test what's actually happening. And most of all, keep your workflows a little bit flexible. Document what you learn, share it with the community, and don't be shy about calling out when things break. It's how we all get better, not just at building apps, but at staying sane in this wild, fast-moving AI space. If this helped, or you've got your own horror stories or hacks for dealing with broken AI tools, drop them in the comments. I seriously read everything, and I love swapping notes with other solo builders. And yeah, if you want more breakdowns like this, feel free to subscribe, or share it with another indie dev who's riding out the same AI waves. Until next time, keep crafting, keep learning, and remember, it's not just you. We're all in this together. Peace.